there, and open in workspace, the same data set. And so now you'll see the new data set is on top. And if you want to you want to switch the order, you want to put the older one on top of the newer one, there's three little dots on the side. You can grab and click on it and drag up, and that'll rearrange the layers.
Can you change the name?
No, the name is the name of the data set. Yeah, it'd be nice if you could distinguish more easily what those two are. Yeah, the way to do it is to click on it and see where the time is. I clicked back on data catalog.
Okay.
Yep. And then I opened a workspace. Right. Okay, so everyone happy with that? Okay, so I just want to give you some time to play with it. So here are some things you can try. You can look at some of the maps that are on the home page, or you can look at some of the different data layers to see what kind of data we have. And if you want, let me show you this. If you want to, when you are, here we go. It's funny. When you're looking at a data set, there are these visualization parameters. What you can do with these differs from satellite to satellite. Let me reload this just because it looks so funny. Right, so back where you set the dates, you can also change some visualization parameters. These will mean more if you know about imagery, but basically it lets you change the minimum and maximum value that you're displaying. So Lotus numbers vary a lot. You can kind of cut off the maximum value. And you can also change the bands you're looking at. So remember I was talking about how when you're looking at something on the map, you need red, green, blue. But you can change what band is red, what band is green, and what band is blue for visualization. And you can do that by changing the names here. So right now, for Modus, band 1 is red, band 4 is green, and band 3 is blue. But we can switch that and say band 4 is red, and band 1 is blue. And it gives you a different kind of image. So this is what you can use to have vegetation pop up if you know the right band combinations. So you can play with those visualization parameters as well. So let's take, I don't know, like 5-10 minutes and play with it and call us over if you want any help. It's already 2:30, so let's do 5 minutes of this, and then I'll do the classification tool. Right, so this is all missing data. If you click on like back and forth, choose certain things. Click on, I guess that. But basically, when you've seen these rules, it's where it was to value the information. Yeah. We have some things called annual mosaics, where we have years worth of data right together, and that is beautiful. So that's if you go to the data catalog. That's a short. Now it's doing the first one, second one.
Okay, so
Yeah.
still
You do. It's what the end year is. So it'll do 2009, 2011. Well, if you want to use movies, you can click on it. So the funny thing about this one is it's not natural color. So it's color that scientists like, where foliage pops out. So it's called false color. We have other animal mosaics that are shooting and that are high resolution. also mention, if you start getting a million layers and it's slowing you down, you can delete layers. So if you click on this and you want to get rid of it, you can delete it. So you know, if you just start having like 6 or 7 layers and each one is loading up each time, it slows you down. So you can just get rid of them like that. Yeah, so if you're finding imagery that has big holes in it, it's because it's either cloudy or shadow. Okay, so I'm going to move on. Are there any questions about navigating the data catalog? All right. I'm going to try to change the resolution of this thing. Hold on. Nah, I think it's okay. Okay. Okay, so now I'm going to tell you about this classification engine. So for this, all right, so what I showed you just before is publicly available and everybody has access to it. What I'm going to tell you about now is specifically for people who are in our trusted tester program. So with the accounts that we set up for you, the test accounts with the Gmail address and the password, you'll be able to test it out today. And if you want to become a trusted tester, I'll give you at the end an email address that you can write to. And we send you an agreement, and if you agree to that, then we'll add you to the trusted tester program. So in the trusted tester program, you get access to a bunch of extra functionality. So one is the ability to download imagery from this data catalog. So what you've done so far is you've viewed a bunch of data, but you haven't been able to actually get it onto your hard drive. But if you're in the trusted tester program, you'll be able to download it. And you can download it in different projections, and you can choose the bands and all that kind of stuff. So that's handy to have, the ability to download the imagery. And you also get access to this classification engine. So like I did before, what I'm going to do is run through it really quickly, and then we can go through it step by step together. So to use the classification engine, you have to sign in. Okay?
Should they do it?
No, I'll go through it quickly, and then we'll do it together. So now when you go to the workspace, there's some new stuff. Notably, there's this analysis pull down. So what we're going to do with analysis is train a classifier. And this is going to do supervised learning classification of satellite imagery. So the idea is you'll be downloading, accessing satellite imagery, and then sort of training learning algorithm up on what's forest and what's not forest by just plopping down points. And then based on where you say there's forest and not forest, the learning algorithm will sort of learn what points you think are forest, and then it'll do the rest of the map. So if you ever wanted to do like forest classification, this is how you typically would do it. And it doesn't have to be forest, not forest. It can be any land cover classes. So we're going to train a classifier, add data. This is kind of a good default one. This is Landsat 7. It's 30 meter resolution, so it's better resolution than the data we were looking at before. And what we're going to do is we're going to, first I'm going to zoom in, because this can be an expensive operation. All right. So what this does is it takes all the Landsat data over basically a year, whatever we'll put time in, and it looks for good pixels over those data. Basically, it takes all the images that have been taken over those spots in that year, stacks up all the values, and finds the middle value and uses that one. And the effect of that is it gets rid of clouds, because clouds are usually very high values, and it gets rid of the missing data, because the missing data is on the bottom. So that's what this percentile composite does. So I'm going to say it's input to the algorithm. I'm going to choose a year's worth of data. And save it. And so now it's going to calculate that. So it's grabbing that year's worth of Landsat data for every single pixel, finding all the values, finding the middle value, and displaying it. So they just did that for this region. And now I'm going to give it some training data. So for that, I'm going to hand draw points. This is not a scientifically valid approach. Or normally you would have a big set of training data, and you can store that in a fusion table. And then you would point to the fusion table and use all that as training data. Or you could use an already classified image for training data, but for the purposes of this, we'll just kind of put it down to 3 points. So I'm going to create 2 classes. One non-forest, and one forest. Okay, go back. All right. And then I'm going to click on this little point dropping tool. You can also draw polygons if you want, and when you're done, you hit done. So I'm going to draw points. I'm going to draw forest points. So here I am being very scientifically valid. Plop, right? Okay, looks like forest to me. And non-forest. Yeah. So this is all farms. Being very careful here. Okay. And so we have 5 non-forest points and 11 forest points. A great training set. And now we're going to train. So what it's doing now is it's taking those points, looking at the values at those points, trying to figure out, what counts as forest and not, and then building up a model of that and then applying the model. So here it is, applying the model. Yes. So one fun thing to do is to turn the model on and off and see how successful you are, and it's pretty good, right? So look at this little blob there. Oops. That's forest, right? So even with these few points, it did quite well. So another nice thing about this, exit, is one thing I didn't mention is that in Earth Engine, we apply all our analyses on the fly as you request them, right? So this analysis was done on this viewport. But if we pan to a new part of it, where we didn't run it, it's going to rebuild that composite. There it goes. And reapply the model. Right, so it'll do it on the fly. You can zoom out and you can zoom in and it'll do the same thing. So another thing I should mention is when we did this classification, we used this classifier called fast naive Bayes classifier, but there are other classifiers you can use. So here's a list of different classifiers. These are some of the favorites. Some people like to use CART. Random forest is another favorite one. SVM, some people love. Some people swear by certain ones. So we have a lot of the major ones, and we're working to add more as necessary. So I'm coding up one, especially for Lilian, for doing species habitat modeling, which is almost done. Almost done. All right, so any questions about this? All right, so let's go through it together. Oh, yeah.
You were talking about we're going to choose a percentile because the extremes are what again?
Yeah, so the high values are usually clouds, and the low values are shadow, or sometimes missing data banded data will be black. It'll be low value. So the middle value is usually gets rid of those. But actually, there's a setting where you can change that. Oh, and I should have mentioned, anything that's in the data catalog, you can use as input. So you don't just have to use that percentile composite thing. You can use any of the data. So you can put MODIS data in, you can put the elevation data in, we have atmospheric data that you can put in. So it's built to take in any of the data sets that we've ingested and do the learning using those.
any layer that you have loaded, when you put the point down and call it force, it will kind of drill down and pull the values from every layer.
Yeah.
And use them in the classifier.
Yeah.
And if you don't want one included, you have to delete it from the comments, right?
Right. Yeah. But elevation is a good one, right? So a lot of things, if you're looking at species, some will thrive at high elevations and not at lower elevations. So if you have one of those elevation models in there, it really can help. All right. So let's do this together. First step is you may already be signed in. So go back to earthengine.google.org. And if you're not already signed in, sign in. And your guest account will be here. Click on Workspace. And zoom into some area that you're interested in. So I've been looking over here at Rondonia, but you can look at whatever you want. So to zoom in, you can use you can either double click, or you can use this slider. Yeah.